You were taught to believe that effort is sacred, that if you work hard enough, stay disciplined enough, endure long enough, the world will eventually notice. That belief kept you moving, compliant, predictable. It kept you useful, but it never kept you powerful. Effort alone has never been currency. Awareness is. There are men who exhaust themselves daily and remain unseen, and others who move once and are carried for years. This isn't luck. It isn't injustice. It's design. The system doesn't reward those who give the most. It rewards those who understand what not to give away. Effort without leverage disappears into silence. It leaves no mark. The world doesn't reject it. It simply absorbs it and asks for more. Once you see this, something subtle changes. The resentment you carried loses its edge. You stop asking why others advance faster and start noticing what they withhold. The realization is quiet but irreversible. You were never weak. You were just operating on the wrong signal. Predictability feels virtuous. It feels stable. It feels safe. But safety is not how power is preserved. When your reactions are guaranteed, others plan around them. When your values are always visible, they become pressure points. Restraint becomes expectation. Consistency becomes entitlement. You don't need to be malicious to be exploited. You only need to be readable. This is why men who are disciplined, polite, and emotionally controlled are often trusted but rarely followed. Their behavior reassures the system. It does not disturb it. Power does not move toward virtue. It moves toward uncertainty, toward men who cannot be easily mapped. This realization stings briefly, then steadies you. You stop moralizing outcomes. You stop personalizing neglect. You understand that being good was never the problem. Being predictable was. And predictability, once seen, can be withdrawn. Awareness does not arrive loudly. It arrives quietly, almost clinically. You begin to notice patterns others explain away, incentives beneath words, silence beneath praise. You see where energy flows and where it is extracted. This is where separation begins. You no longer fully belong to the narratives that once guided you. The promises feel thin. The advice feels rehearsed. You aren't angry about it. You're simply no longer convinced. This distance can feel isolating at first, but it is also stabilizing. You stop chasing validation from systems that only recognize compliance. Awareness does not make you superior. It makes you incompatible. And incompatibility is the first condition of untouchability. From here forward, you are no longer trying to be rewarded. You are learning how to become unreachable. Emotion is the handle people use to move you. Not because you are weak, but because emotion creates access. The moment someone can predict how you feel, they can shape how you act. This is how influence begins, not with force, but with familiarity. The more emotionally available you are, the more surface area you offer for pressure. Detachment is often misunderstood as coldness. It isn't. Coldness is reactive. Detachment is silent. It is the absence of hooks where tension used to land. You don't harden, you simply remove access. When reactions disappear, leverage collapses. This is why emotionally distant men feel heavier in a room. Nothing about them is loud, yet everything around them slows. People hesitate, conversations shorten, provocations lose momentum. Emotional distance doesn't repel others, it forces them to approach carefully. You are not denying connection, you are controlling entry. Some people don't want resolution, they want movement, specifically your movement. Arguments are rarely about truth, they are about extraction, attention, energy, emotional response. The moment you engage, the transaction is complete. Whether you win or lose is irrelevant. The exchange already favored them. Silence feels passive to men who were trained to prove themselves. In reality, silence is selection. It decides what deserves access and what decays on its own. When you stop responding, something unsettling happens. The other person is forced to sit with their own noise. Without resistance, it echoes back. This is why calm unsettles manipulators more than aggression ever could. Aggression confirms importance. Calm removes it. You don't overpower, you outlast. You let their urgency expose itself while you remain still. Nothing drains chaos faster than the absence of reaction. The need to be understood is a quiet form of dependence. When you require clarity from others, your behavior adjusts to maintain it. You explain, you justify, you soften decisions so they land gently. Over time, this erodes authority, not because your intentions are wrong, but because authority does not explain itself to those who lack respect. Misunderstanding creates space. It frees you from constant narrative maintenance. When you stop correcting perceptions, you regain movement. People who matter adapt, people who don't fall away. This is where emotional inaccessibility matures. You no longer rush to be seen accurately. You allow distance, you allow silence. The result is not isolation, it is autonomy. Your actions no longer orbit approval, they orbit intent. This is the turning point. The moment you stop managing how you are perceived, emotional leverage disappears. You are no longer reactive, you are no longer available on demand, and without access, manipulation has nothing to attach to. What is fully known is fully handled. The moment people believe they understand you, they stop paying attention. Curiosity collapses, caution disappears. Your presence becomes manageable. This is not because they dislike you, but because familiarity breeds entitlement. Once they think you know your limits, they press them. Once they believe you know your values, they test them. Transparency feels honest, but honesty without discretion is exposure. Power has never lived in full disclosure. It lives in what remains undefined. When others cannot read your depth, they move carefully. They pause. They leave room. Mystery doesn't intimidate through fear. It restrains through uncertainty. This is why controlled men rarely reveal their full shape. Not because they are deceptive, but because they understand that accessibility invites interference. When you limit what is visible, you protect what matters. You are not hiding, you are preserving leverage. The less predictable your inner world appears, the more weight your presence carries. Most men believe being seen is the goal. It isn't. Constant visibility dilutes impact. When you are always present, your absence loses meaning. When you speak often, your words flatten. When you respond immediately, urgency disappears. You become background, reliable, replaceable. Power accumulates in timing. When your presence is selective, attention sharpens around you. When you appear only when necessary, people listen differently. They register shifts, they notice changes. Silence becomes part of your influence, not a lack of it. This is where restraint becomes dominance. You stop filling space unnecessarily. You stop performing relevance. You let others feel the gap you leave behind. That gap does more work than explanation ever could. Men who understand timing don't chase recognition. They allow it to converge. They don't demand attention, they compress it. And once attention compresses, it becomes pressure. Most conflicts are lost before they begin. Not because of weakness, but because the frame was accepted without question. The moment you argue inside someone else's narrative, you surrender position. You may win points, but you lose authority. You react instead of define. You move within boundaries you didn't choose. Frames determine meaning. They decide what is reasonable, what is excessive, what must be defended. When you accept a hostile frame, you fight uphill. Every response becomes justification. Every explanation reinforces their structure. Power begins with refusal. Refusing the frame doesn't require confrontation, it requires detachment. You don't explain why the narrative is wrong, you stop engaging with it, you step outside it. Without your participation, it collapses under its own assumptions. This is where men regain control, not by convincing, but by disengaging, not by arguing, but by redefining relevance. The moment you stop reacting to false premises, the dynamic resets. Those who control the frame never appear defensive, they appear unmoved. Information is the most underrated form of leverage. Men who speak early reveal position. Men who speak last decide alignment. When you rush to express, you surrender advantage. When you wait, you collect data. People expose priorities when they feel unexamined. They reveal intent through impatience, insecurity, urgency. Silence invites disclosure. This is not passivity, it is filtration. You are not withholding out of fear, you are allowing the environment to show its shape before you commit. The quiet observer notices inconsistencies others miss. He detects shifts in tone, alignment, loyalty. Trusting too quickly isn't generosity, it's impatience. Observation slows the field. It forces others to move first, and those who move first reveal everything they intended to hide. Once you see this, your behavior changes naturally. You stop filling silence, you stop overcommitting, you allow people to earn access without effort from you. And with each withheld reaction, your position strengthens. The moment your behavior becomes consistent, it becomes usable. Consistency is praised because it makes systems stable. But stability serves structures, not individuals. When your reactions are guaranteed, others don't need to negotiate with you. They simply anticipate. They adjust. They apply pressure knowing exactly where it will land. Predictability turns you into a function instead of a force. This is why men who always remain calm, always remain available, always remain reasonable are quietly controlled. Their restraint becomes an expectation. Their reliability becomes entitlement. Nothing about them is feared or respected. It is merely accounted for. Uncertainty changes this immediately. Not chaos, not volatility, range. When your responses are no longer automatic, others hesitate. They pause before pushing. They calculate instead of assuming. Stillness becomes unreadable. Silence gains mass. You don't need to explain the shift. The absence of predictability speaks for itself. Control returns the moment your behavior stops being guaranteed. Explanation feels dignified. In reality, it is often surrender. When respect is absent, justification invites erosion. Every explanation opens a door. Every clarification becomes a point of negotiation. You begin defending decisions instead of standing inside them. The center shifts away from you. Men explain when they want understanding. Authority does not require it. Those who disrespect you are not confused, they are testing boundaries. Explanation rewards the test. Silence ends it. The moment you stop defending your position, the exchange collapses. There is nothing to pull on. This is where many men feel discomfort. Silence can feel like loss of control. In truth, it is the restoration of it. You don't owe access to those who enter without respect. You don't owe reasoning to those who question from below. When explanations disappear, posture changes. People adjust, or they remove themselves. Either outcome restores equilibrium. Staying too long is more damaging than leaving early. Men are taught endurance as virtue, to remain loyal, to absorb discomfort, to prove commitment through tolerance. But endurance without leverage decays into contempt. The longer you stay where you are undervalued, the more your presence cheapens. Withdrawal is not escape, it is timing. Leaving preserves value. It freezes perception at its highest point. Those who exit first control memory. Those who linger invite erosion. This applies to conversations, relationships, roles, environments. The moment usefulness declines, departure becomes strength. This is why powerful men disappear before they are dismissed. They sense decay early. They move without announcement. Silence becomes their exit. No explanations, no closure rituals, just absence. Withdrawal resets dynamics. It creates scarcity. It restores asymmetry. The one who leaves first holds position. Once you understand this, attachment loosens. You stop negotiating relevance. You stop overstaying. You stop offering yourself as proof of loyalty. You become harder to place, harder to exhaust, harder to touch. Accessibility is often mistaken for openness. In reality, it is exposure. When people know they can reach you anytime, they stop valuing your presence. When responses are immediate, boundaries dissolve. Urgency becomes entitlement. Others begin dictating rhythm. Reducing accessibility is not cruelty, it is control. You don't need to disappear completely. You simply stop being available on demand. Delays return balance. Silence restores pacing. Others adjust their expectations around your absence. This is how behavioral dominance stabilizes. You no longer orbit others' urgency. You move when aligned with intent. The environment adapts around you instead of pulling you into its noise. Over time, this creates a subtle shift. People approach more carefully. They compress their requests. They respect your time without being told to. Accessibility once surrendered is hard to reclaim, but once reduced, it transforms how you are treated permanently.
Speed feels powerful, but it is rarely strong. Men who rush toward alignment reveal hunger. Men who wait collect truth. The one who speaks first exposes position. The one who listens last decides outcome. Observation creates asymmetry. It shifts weight quietly, without friction. When you allow others to move first, they reveal priorities without resistance. Impatience leaks intention. Urgency exposes need. Silence invites disclosure because most people cannot tolerate it. They fill gaps with explanation, justification, promises. None of it is accidental. This is not distrust, it is discipline. You stop committing emotionally, socially, or mentally before the environment shows its shape. You don't withdraw, you delay. And in that delay, information accumulates, patterns emerge, alignment becomes clear without effort. This is how you stop being surprised. This is how betrayal loses its power. You were never wrong to trust. You were simply early. Timing corrects that. Need is the most reliable lever that exists. The moment you require approval, validation, connection, or outcome, influence shifts away from you. Others feel it instinctively. They may not articulate it, but they sense the imbalance, and imbalance invites pressure. Reducing need does not mean rejecting desire. It means severing dependence. You stop anchoring your stability to external responses. You stop tying your calm to outcomes you don't control. The less you need, the less negotiable you become. This is where emotional and behavioral laws converge. Detachment stabilizes, withdrawal clarifies, observation sharpens. What remains is internal sufficiency. You don't demand, you don't chase, you don't react to absence. And because nothing is required, nothing can be used against you. This is the moment manipulation fails completely. There is no hook left, no urgency, no emotional handle. Only stillness. Untouchability is not aggression. It is not dominance over others. It is unreachability. Nothing external dictates your center anymore. Praise doesn't inflate you. Disrespect doesn't destabilize you. You move without announcing. You decide without defending. You leave without explaining. This is the final position. You are not invisible, you are selective. You are not cold, you are contained. You are not detached from life, you are detached from dependency. The world still moves, manipulation still exists, games continue, but they no longer require your participation. You see them early, you step aside, you remain intact. This is what most men are actually searching for. Not power over others, but freedom from being moved. Calm without weakness, distance without isolation, authority without noise. Once this stabilizes, something irreversible happens. You stop seeking permission. You stop performing value. You stop proving depth. You simply remain. And that is what makes you untouchable.